Good morning, everyone. It's your morning drive with Adam. I was just thinking this morning kind of about what we were going to talk about, and it was like this flood of memories kind of came back to me because I got a little bit of a story to tell. So, funny story about this. We're going to be continuing our discussion first off with Jonathan and David and discussing the relationship between Jonathan and David and how they're kind of an example of what a good friend should look like. But I have to tell you this funny story before moving on. So when I was growing up, I was kind of new to the youth group. I had just moved into a new town, didn't know anyone there. My parents, my mom, started going to a church in the area, and so she invited me to go to a youth group. And I started going to youth group. Well, this was like during the summer. I'd only been going to like the church for a little bit, and there was a mission trip that they were going on to Indiana, and so I decided to go ahead and join them and go on this mission trip. But I didn't know really anyone there, and so my mom had been going to class with Jonathan, my current friend's mom, and she was going on the trip, so she introduced me on the trip to John, and John didn't want anything to do with me to begin with. He didn't really want to hang out with me or anything like that. It didn't start off, our friendship did not start off on the best terms. Long story short, we ended up kind of bonding over some video games I had taken with me on the long road trip to our destination. And anyway, since then we started to kind of become friends. And we became kind of quick friends, mostly because we were the youngest two on the entire trip, and we ended up bonding kind of over similar interests kind of thing. And so because of that, there were two adults in our youth group, two leaders, who saw us and were like, wow, you guys are going to have a really great friendship. You guys are like Jonathan and David in the Bible. And we were like, okay. And so they kind of like almost, not forced, but kind of really heavily encouraged this friendship between John and I. And it didn't help the fact that John already had the name Jonathan. If I had the name David, it would have just been even more exciting for, these leaders in our youth group. But I guess you can say it did work in the end, because John and I are still friends to this day. We're living together and whatnot. He is my roommate and stuff like that. So anyway, but funny story aside, I've really over the years have studied the characters of Jonathan and David, and I've looked at kind of their personalities and what makes them so, I guess, their story and their friendship so unique in the Bible. And so we're going to look, and just this one verse that we're going to be looking at over the next few days is really going to kind of help unpack that, and there's a lot of deep meaning behind it, I think, that we kind of gloss over whenever we read it. But anyway, in 1 Samuel 18, if you'll look there and read the first few verses there, you'll get to a spot where it says, and Jonathan loved David as if he loved himself, and something to the effect of, like, in order to show this love, he gave David his outer robe. And then carries on, he says he gives him his sword, his bow, and his belt, and stuff like that. But today I want to focus on that idea. So the concept of him giving these objects over to David is actually symbolic in a lot of ways. It's symbolic of the meaning kind of behind, and the symbolism behind what that object actually means. So we're going to break each one of those objects down over the next few days and kind of talk about them. But the first one being his outer robe. And what is the symbolism behind the outer robe? And you got to think about it. In that day, the way their clothing works, you had kind of an undergarment similar to how we have undergarments today, but it was more of like an inner robe, a light tunic that would be put on, and it would be held together by a belt. And the outer robe was something that you put on as more of a, kind of almost think of it like if you were putting on, for guys, if you're putting on a suit, you have like the undershirt and then your other undergarments and socks and whatnot. But the outer robe would be almost like your jacket, and like giving your jacket to a lady whenever she's cold or something like that. And so think of it kind of that way, as that outer jacket of lending it over to him. So that first layer would be like, he is kind of opening himself up to David. He is, not many people, let me put it this way, whenever you take off your outer jacket, it's because you're in a comfortable situation. So that means that first step of that friendship is kind of becoming comfortable with the other person, that your guard isn't up, you're just kind of relaxed, you can start to be yourself around them. And you're taking off that outer material, if you will, that outer facade that you put on whenever you're around people to try to impress them, and you're no longer trying to impress them. You're just trying to, you're relaxed, you can start to give them, this is the visualize the scene. Think of, even old movies you may have watched, or maybe you've done this yourself, where you go to a really fancy dinner, and whenever they're done, the guy takes off his jacket, hangs it on his chair, unbuttons his top button, loosens up his tie, maybe even takes his tie off. And that's kind of the symbolism I want you to see here, is somebody becoming relaxed and at ease with that person. And so the first step in being a friend is to just be relaxed in their presence, to understand that they have accepted you. And honestly, that takes a little bit of risk and a little bit of nervousness to be relaxed in that person's presence, because if you're relaxed around them, you have vulnerability that has opened up. You have the potential of somebody saying something or whatever while your guard is down. Because let's be honest, whenever we're out, with people, we don't always kind of have our guard up in some way. We don't want people seeing us in a specific light. We don't want them to look down upon us in any way. And so, we're really trying to make sure that we're on our guard. But whenever you're around someone and you're close to them and you've kind of let your guard down a little bit, you have a little bit of vulnerability there. And so, you as a friend, you've got to look now at your own relationships and see, who are you most comfortable with? Who is somebody who you can just be relaxed around? And that's going to probably be an indicator of somebody who's a friend, or maybe somebody who might become a friend. Maybe it's somebody who you go to school with, or somebody who you work with, who you just feel comfortable around them. You feel at ease, you don't feel like you're on guard, or you have to put a wall up whenever you're around them. Maybe that's somebody who can become a friend in the future. Maybe that's a good indicator of it. And in choosing healthy friendships, you want to have somebody who you can trust. And I think that's the first thing. And so today I want you to look at your own friendships and look at yourself. And I want you to see, are you that person who, someone else can be comfortable around? Are you the person who is not trying to judge what some people say? You're not trying to correct people all the time and what they're doing. You're not trying to correct what they're saying. You're just letting them be who they are. And I think that is your... that's your first take away lesson for today. To analyze your own self and see, are you really being a comfortable friend, somebody who they can go to and just relax and hang out without any kind of other things attached. So think of that today. We're going to pray, and I'll send you guys on your way. God, I just thank you so much for just the ability to open your word, to learn more about these people who lived in ancient days, and God, that you left a legacy behind that we can read and study today, that we can analyze and dissect and look at all of the different intricacies of what even one single verse could mean. Today, God, I ask that you'll help us to be better friends, that we can be someone who is trustworthy and not judgmental and not trying to one up somebody else, but God, that people can be comfortable in our presence, that you'll help us to see the areas where we are flawed and that we can improve upon in our friendship in that area. Point that out to us so we can be better and be the best that we possibly can be for you. God, we love you, and we just want to lift you up today and praise you. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Have a great day, guys. Love you, and I will see you tomorrow.